Okay, so now that we have our good block out of our character here, now we can actually work on starting to make them look more like a real character. Because right now we have our block out that's looking obviously kind of blocky. So now what we want to do is we want to start smoothing out those areas that actually are going to bend and flex. So I'm going to go back into my paint weight tool and I'll start with the arm here, the armpit. And now I want to start using that smooth option. And basically what the smooth is going to do is it's going to smooth off and transition between those areas. So actually let me go ahead and move this arm up a little bit so we can kind of see how it looks. Then I'll go back into my tool. And now I'm on the smooth. And when I smooth, I like to use a bigger brush because I'm going to be trying to transition big areas. And I'm going to turn off that color ramp. Just because now we're not worried about that black and white, I'm actually looking for how the character looks. And I find it's a little easier to do that in grayscale. And basically, I'm just going to start to smooth out that transition area. And now the way I normally do it is, especially when I'm working on like an armpit or something like that, is I'll keep switching back and forth between the areas that are influencing it. So you can kind of see how that's smoothing out. Now sometimes you'll get these little spikies. See how that guy kind of spiked out right there? Best way to deal with spikies is switch back to the other joint and try smoothing the other way. And see how I just got rid of that little spiky? And if you get a really bad spike, what you can do is just re-block out that area and start the smooth process over again. You see I'm just basically, it's almost like modeling now. I'm trying to bring back that edge flow and start to really work on those areas to make them flow good. Now, one other thing to keep in mind when you're dealing with painting weights is this is rigging, this isn't modeling. We're allowed to cheat. Things like this. Our arm has a crease. We can have intersecting geometry because our body actually does crease and flow. So having this crease like this, especially up in the upper arm, and I'd smooth it out maybe a little bit, is a natural part of how our body works. So you can have some of these little creases like this. Let me see how the clavicle looks. There we go. See, I'm just kind of smoothing that out to give myself a nice little crease right there. Probably have to go inside here and smooth this area out a little bit. So you can see how we're getting some jaggies in here. And I'm just doing this so that when you go the other way with the arm, you don't have big jaggies. So you still keep that crease, but you're smoothing out the areas underneath too. So I'm just going to kind of keep going around and smoothing this out. And the one thing you always want to keep in mind is you never want to have pure white against pure black. You always want to have that transition between them. And see how I'm getting another spiky right there? So I'm just going to go in, maybe grab the arm joint and try smoothing out the other way. And see that spike's still growing. So let's go ahead and maybe try grabbing the back. Smooth it out that way. There we go. See how that's kind of pushing it back in? That's still giving me some weird spikies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and go ahead and shrink my brush down. Just add this all back to 100% to the chest to get rid of that spike. I'm getting spikes up through here too. And then go back to the smooth and kind of start that process over again. See how now I'm starting to bring that edge flow back. I'm still getting a little bit of a dip there. So let's see where that's coming from. There it is. And see how just by going between all those different joints, you start to find out how to transition that area and get a nice smooth transition. Now this is a tedious process. It takes time and it takes time to get good at how the tools work and how to use them. But Maya does give us another tool that works really well. So let me go ahead and bring this arm back down. And let's go over to the other side. Now I'm going to raise this arm up the same way, but this time I'm going to use a tool built into Maya. And this is why the blockout is so important. The better your blockout is, the better this tool is going to work. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to grab the verts in this area that I want to have that merge. So I'm just going to go in and grab all these verts right here. That's a little too much. I'll deselect these guys. But I want to grab a pretty good chunk of them. And now what I'm going to do is go into my skin. And this time I'm going to use the Smooth Skin Weight tool. But I'm going to go into the option. And by default it has this Obey Max Influence checked. You want to uncheck that, because you want it to be able to change how many joints are affecting those verts when it's smoothing them out. And now, dun dun dun, you ready for the magic? You ready for it? BAM! Smooth Skin Weight tool. Yay! Basically what the Smooth Skin Weight tool does everything I did on the other side in one click. It smooths all those joints, all their weights, all at once. It's the closest thing Maya's ever had to a Make Pretty button. Now you can see it's not perfect. I still need to go in and kind of get rid of this little divot I'm getting up here in the arm. But it really is an awesome tool, and it will save you some time. You still have to go in and clean up afterwards, but it's an awesome tool. So just to show you another example of it, I like to use it for my back too. Come on. Grab the joint. Object mode, there we go. And why can't I? I'll just do this. Go back to stance, go back to none. And now what I'm going to do is, my mouse is acting weird. I'm just going to kind of bend them over a little bit. And you'll see I get this, ow, yee, oh, not so good, huh? So let's go ahead and try the Make Pretty button. So I'm going to go into vertex mode again. And I'm going to go into my lasso tool. I'm just going to grab those ones where I want it to merge. And Smooth Skin Weight tool. BAM! Ho ho ho! Remember, you must make sound effects in Maya or you go nuts. Smooth Skin Weight tool. BAM! Ho ho ho! Pretty awesome, isn't it? So that's the Smooth Skin Weight tool. Then you still, like I said, have to go in and maybe manually smooth it a little bit. So let's go back into our tool. Go back into my Paint Weight tool. And maybe just manually smooth these areas out a little bit. And see, I'm getting a big divot there now. So I'm getting some weight from somewhere else, and there it is. You can see I'm just kind of working to bring that edge flow back. It's almost like modeling, because you're trying to keep that nice parameterized edge flow going. Now, one thing about weighting is a lot of times you'll be able to get it to look great going one way and crappy going the other way, especially with things like shoulders. So you'll be able to have it look great when you raise something. Oops, object mode. So I got that shoulder looking pretty good going this way, but it looked like crap when I'm going this way. Actually, that doesn't look that awful bad. But one thing to keep in mind is we're also going to go over how to do corrective blend shapes. Now, corrective blend shapes are a per frame way to fix things. The one thing to remember about painting weights, weights are geometry based. They are not time based. They follow the geometry throughout the whole animation. If you can't fix the weights on frame 1 and then change the weights on frame 30. Weights are geometry based. Corrective blend shapes are time based. So once we get into that, that's how you can fix little pinches like that. So just kind of keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is remember anatomy. What he's doing right now, he cannot physically do. When we raise our arm above our shoulder, we also raise our clavicle. And see how that helps with the stretching there? Because that's the way our anatomy works. So also keep in mind how anatomy works. But let's go ahead and do another example. I like to show the mouth because that's another good spot to use the smooth skin weight tool. So right now you can see, and one thing when you mirror weights on this guy, his mouth isn't perfectly symmetrical, so you'll get these little spikies. Another way to fix big spikes like this is if you go into vertex mode, just grab a vert next to that spike and use the greater than to grow your selection a couple times. Then use the smooth skin weight tool. Bam! Ha ha ha! Grab one up here, grow it a few times. Smooth skin weight tool. Bam! Ha ha ha! See how that's popping them all together? Because it's taking the verts around it to figure out how to average and smooth everything out. Smooth skin weight tool. Bam! Ha ha ha! So now I have that good open mouth with the top lip and the bottom lip. I got this bottom lip going somewhere. Where are you coming from? Where are those guys at? Let's go investigate. Grab that guy. Grow selection a couple times. Bam! Smooth skin weight tool. Ha ha ha. Oh, they're coming from the bottom. So now I could actually go in and let's grab these verts along the cheek area here. I'm going to deselect all this stuff. And then smooth skin weight tool. Bam! Oh, oh, oh. And see how now we're starting to get that nice shape around the mouth. And then I could go back into my object mode, go back into my tool, my paint skin weights tool if I wanted to tweak this a little bit. And basically if I grab the jaw joint, I can smooth down to bring that corner of the lip down. If I want to smooth this corner up, I can just grab the head joint and smooth it up. You see I can start smoothing out the rest of the cheek here. Oh, that's why I was getting that weird neck stuff. That should all be the neck. So I can go to my neck. And I'm going to actually go back to my add. Because I really don't want the head affecting that much of the neck. And then I can go back to my smoothing. Big brush to smooth. Go back to my jaw. Smooth the other way. Back to my head. Smooth. And you see how you kind of start working all this out to get that edge flow back the way you want it. And see how now we're starting to get that really nice curve along the mouth. And you just keep kind of working like this and keep working through all the areas. Same thing with fingers. But usually with the settings I tell you to use, you get some pretty good looking fingers. Look at that. Bam! Dunk, 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 dunk. That's why I like, when I was talking about the settings, that's why I use the settings I use, because I hate to paint fingers. So that gives you a pretty good finger right off the get-go. Cool, cool. So that's kind of the basics of smoothing. It takes practice, it takes work. That's why I give you guys 2 weeks to do it. So go ahead and play around with that for a little while, and then we'll move on in the next video to corrective blend shapes. And that's where you can fix things that don't work all the time. But one more thing before we go, we still haven't looked at this guy in the actual animation, have we? So let's go ahead and take a look at that, because that can help too with things. Let me zero that jaw out real quick. So let's go ahead and switch our guy over to our control rig. So here he is in animation mode. And you can see the difference between the two shoulders, the one I worked on and the one I didn't. But you can paint in the animation. I can go in here and I can use my paint tool. Just keep in mind that the weights are geometry based, not time based. But if I go into my paint tool, while he's in this pose, I can paint weights, but I can't right click over the joints, because this is actually the control rig, not our joints. That can be kind of annoying. But when you're in the pose that you want to work on them on, you can switch back to none, and that'll bring his joints back up. And then you can right click on them and kind of see how it's looking in your animation. Now your animation's still going to look a little bit jacked up, even with good weights, because actually in the next video we're going to look at how to do animation layers, because the proportions of this guy are different than the proportions of the character that we used by my boss for the mocap data. So you can actually cheat a little bit more by actually fixing the animation. So I'll stop here and go ahead and get ready for the next one.